What's up, everybody? Finally, welcome back to another episode of Turn the Jets Live. I'm your host, Steven Zantz, joined by my co-host, Steven Russo. Russo, it's been almost a month since we've done a show together. How's everything? It feels good to be back. You did a great job on my behalf while I was away.
It feels good, man. It's good to be back. You're a world traveler. It's like Marissa Tomei from My Cousin Vinny. I love that. But yeah, man, you're all over the place. But I'm glad we were just talking before the show. I'm glad you and Chelsea had it sounds like a great time in Italy. But glad to have you back, man. Let's get into it. Let's talk Jets. We got a couple of quick hitters here, but yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I'll kick it off with a funny story about while I was there, because it does have to do with the Jets. So one day we were in the city in Amalfi, and we were waiting in line to get back to our Airbnb on a bus that was taking us from town to town. And I'm wearing my Jets hat. And this one guy comes up to me and starts asking me, like, is this going to, to this town? I was like, yeah. We get on the bus. He was a super nice guy. And then all of a sudden he just goes, he's like, "You're a Jets fan, man." And it comes to focus that he's actually a Packers fan. So he's like completely salty about how, we have Rodgers, and he obviously enjoyed having him. And it's kind of a weird situation for him. But it was just funny because it felt like the whole discourse between Jets Twitter and Packers Twitter that's been going on, basically since all the Rodgers stuff happened a few months ago. But it was just funny. It ended up being a good conversation. We talked football for a little bit, but it's just funny. You never know where you could be, where you can run into some Jets and Packers discourse.
I know, that is funny. And of all the places, I mean, it's crazy, but I'm glad that he, at least it sounds like, appreciates the fact that he had 30 years of good QB play, and is, somewhat sad to see Rodgers go and now on the Jets. I mean, you can have your thoughts one way or another, but that's what I just, it gets me when Packers fans are like, "Good riddance, Aaron, get out of here. We'll move on." Like, you guys, feels like you have no idea how the other side feels right now.
100%. But I think Packers fans, they're, they appreciate the memories, but they also kind of want to see what they have in Jordan Love. So I get it.
Sure.
But it was also funny. I saw some cool, throwback jerseys. I saw Neil O'Donnell in a thrift shop it was in Milan. I know, it was so random like that. And I also saw Sanchez, and I was like, wow, this just gives me nostalgia. And I know you and I were talking before the show. We're going to do a little 2009 nostalgia at the end of the show. But let's kick it to, our Lord and Savior, Aaron Rodgers, who is a confirmed Swiftie, going both nights at MetLife Stadium. It was really funny to see. And I know that he was on with Adam Shine before the concert, was saying that he was a big fan, but I don't think anybody realized how truly big of a fan of Taylor Swift he was until you saw those videos. I also just love when he was saying Jets win the Super Bowl. This guy is he's having the ultimate honeymoon phase. And I love every second of it. I'm so excited for the season. What are your thoughts just in general about how it's been since Rodgers got here, between going to the concert, going to all the New York sports events, going to Wicked last night with the quarterback room outside of Zach and also Uzama? It's been everything we could have hoped for and more,
Yeah. So what I would say is he's really doing a great job of endearing himself to the entire fan base. He's doing all the right things. And the other part of it is that it really seems genuine, and he really seems to be enjoying himself. And you can see that it's like a breath of fresh air for him, and that he's really genuinely happy to be here. So going to all the Knicks games, the Ranger games, going to the T Swift concert both nights, the confetti flying, and the Jets win the Super Bowl. It's awesome to see. And every Jets fan is just eating this up like crazy. I know I am. But the really cool part of it is he just really does. It feels like this is the place that he truly wants to be. This was the one place that he selected, that he wanted to go, that wasn't Green Bay and that wasn't retirement. And he's doing all the right things now. And then that kind of leads into not even the, forget about the off the field stuff. He's here, he's at OTAs, he's helping install a new offense. He's part of everything here. He's, every player is there's just a difference. There's a difference in the meeting rooms. There's a difference in the film rooms. There's a difference on the field. It's this young nucleus of this great young talent. And he's really taking them all under his wing. So everything that he's done, and, when I did the solo show, it feels like the Jets and Aaron Rodgers have done everything right since that trade took place and since he's come to New York. And neither one of them are really missing a beat. And it's just really good to see this organization kind of have that momentum flowing into to mini camp, training camp, and then eventually the season.
Yeah. And I think he feels really re-energized, and I remember he said that like when he was on McAfee that he feels like ready to go and everything. He did his workouts and he's like, I'm feeling great. I'm ready to, to do this. And you could see it. I just feel like he's always smiling. He's like just embracing this entire moment and this new life of his. And like, it's a really cool thing for him. He was living in one of the smallest, professional sports cities in the country. It's a lot different when you're living in Greenway, Wisconsin, compared to like the tri-state area. And it's like, there's so much more for him to do. And it's like, I think he didn't even like realize that he could have done all this time in the area, because it sounded like really prior to coming to the Jets, he had been to New York a handful of times, but he didn't know much about it. And like, he's just like, the world is his oyster. And it's awesome. And I just feel like he's as excited as all of us are, like you said. I know he got hurt in the first week of OTAs. I think it's just much to do about nothing. And it's, early. And I think there's nothing anybody needs to worry about it. I'm like, why are we even getting like reports on it? Like, he clearly just probably pulled something, you're not doing like a real practice. You're not in that grind. I was confused why it was even like a story. It's not like, it was like a knee injury or anything. It was just like a calf. And like, he's 39 years old. He's probably going to cramp up a little bit in comparison to a guy like Garrett Wilson, who's like springy and 22 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, it was a calf strain. It's just all this attention and all this media coverage and the Jets at OTAs. And, Aaron Rodgers seems to really be in pain here. We don't know what's happening. Same with Alan Lazard. And turns out he got hit in the nuts. It's like, let's pump the brakes. All right. Like, I guess, you just have to take the good with the bad. And I think every media member is looking for a story. And they love that same old Jets narrative. So, of course, wouldn't it be an amazing headline to write? But I don't want to go too far, because I do believe like the media, they want to cover a good team. Things are better when you're covering a good team, when everyone feels good, when the fan base feels good, there's more clicks, there's more articles, read, like all that stuff. So they're not really like yearning for that same old Jets narrative, but it's got to be kind of, fun for them to write if Aaron Rodgers goes down with a leg or whatever in OTAs. Like, yeah, but either way, like you said, dude, it's much ado about nothing. Like, let's move on. He's fine. Lazard is fine. Let's just get us to September, man. That's all I care about.
Yeah, totally agree. And I hope he doesn't play in the preseason. I feel like there's no reason to even try him out there. Let Zach get all the reps he wants. Let Tim Boyle get some reps. Get Stravler in there. He was like the preseason GOAT last year. I hope they obviously hold him out until week 1, which I feel like is probably going to be the case. Maybe he gets one series in the tune-up game, just like, just get his feet wet. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, I'm so excited. But let's actually shift to Breece Hall, because it's a guy that was so, awesome as a rookie until he went down, unfortunately, in that Denver game. And he had that amazing touchdown run earlier in the game. It seems like he's, on a terrific pace. And I know people always forget that not only was it a torn ACL, it's also a torn meniscus. We had to get the meniscus fixed before he could have the ACL construction surgery. So it took him a month later to actually get his ACL surgery. So everyone was kind of, weary to expect him to be right for week 1, but the way Saleh spoke about him the other day at his presser, it sounds like there's a good chance he's playing week 1. Maybe not like at full strength and not like his normal workload that he was getting, once he really hit his stride before going down. But like the fact that we're probably going to see him and he apparently looks faster than he did last year, like it's a whole other thing that like the dynamic of this offense between having, a Hall of Fame quarterback and now you're having this young potential superstar second year running back. I feel like he is a rookie because he hasn't even played a full season yet. But like, how excited are you about Breece? I am ecstatic to see what he could do in year 2.
Yeah, I mean, you hold out hope because in reality, you have to check yourself. And you just mentioned it, like Adrian Peterson kind of ruined this recovery timetable.
He did. He really did.
Every player. But anybody that has ever, discussed, looked at, whatever, had any sense in football injuries will tell you, like, this is really, it's going to be a year before he's fully back to, to what you're used to what he's used to. Mm-hmm. However, like this news that I want to say Saleh said he hit 22 miles an hour, like all this stuff that makes you feel like maybe, we were kind of expecting maybe it's like, early mid-October, November before he kind of hits his stride. Well, maybe that timetable gets pushed up a little bit and maybe he returns to, 85, 90% to form a little bit earlier on. And how much does that change this offense and what it really could look like? I mean, I think we're all excited for what Izzy Abanikanda can do. I think we're excited to see what Michael Carter can do if he can have a bounce back year or if he's like the guy that's kind of on the outside looking in. what this running back room will look like. Like, do they go out and maybe look for a veteran? Do they sign a Kareem Hunt? Do they go after a Leonard Fournette? Maybe a more, a more sure-handed thing. But either way, if Breece is, closer to that 100% healthy earlier on, it changes the dynamics of this offense completely, especially in the early stages. Because one of those things, we have to remember, it's a familiar offense, obviously, for Rodgers, right? But it's a new offense for everybody else. It's
minus Lazard.
Minus Lazard, correct. It's a young team, right? So there's going to be growing pains, and having a sound running game, I think, to rely on in the early stages of the season, I think will only benefit this team. And you can kind of, go back to Aaron Rodgers last year. Like, yeah, he played with a thumb injury, but the other part of this was he played, first of all, you take his number one and really a top 3 receiver in the league, right? If not top receiver overall, in Devontae Adams. You take him away, and he's working with all these younger guys that he hasn't worked with. Well, it took them a while to hit their stride. But if you look at what Rodgers did over the course of the first 4 to the next 4 to the next 4, then to the last 5, like, Green Bay's offense and points per game just kept increasing. So that'll build. Yeah. So if you get a guy like Breece to be back closer to 100% earlier on, that's only going to expedite that process. So
100%.
It could mean so much for this team, so much for this offense to have him ready to go, really, like 10, 15 touches week 1, week 2, that ramps up as you get into late September, early October. I mean, that's a game changer.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, I think they're definitely going to bring in some sort of veteran between Hunt, Fournette, maybe even Zeke. I don't know. The one thing that you mentioned about Carter, that he could be the odd man looking out on here, I think the fact that they got rid of Ty Johnson, which is still, weird, because he actually has been pretty productive as a Jet, since he came here 3 years ago. I feel like because they made that move, I feel like Carter's safe to stay on the roster for now. I mean, unless Izzy is just completely outplaying him. I think Bam Knight solidified. He deserves a shot on this team, especially taking some of the bulk work if Breece isn't ready. But I do think Ty Johnson being let go is a sign for Michael Carter that he probably will be here. But at the end of the day, you don't really know, because running backs, if the offensive line is good, any running back can look, good behind a strong offensive line. We've seen it time and time again, which is why you're seeing the position being devalued in the draft. You're seeing guys in free agency not getting the money they're looking to see. Like, think about like a guy like Saquon Barkley. Like, he can't even get a long-term deal from the Giants, and he was awesome last year, and he's, shown a lot of promise since he came to the league. It's, outside of his injuries. But I think it's always good to have running back depth. So if they add another body, I'm excited about that, especially a guy like Kareem Hunt, because he's so good as a pass catcher. And, you want Rodgers to have all these different weapons at his disposal. So I'm super excited.
I am too. I wonder how many they're going to carry and how that looks on, come game day when they're dressing 45, like that or 46, but like it's really top 3, right? You're going to say if Breece is healthy, obviously he's out there. You're going to give the rookie Abanikanda a shot, and Bam Knight really, like you said, proved himself at the end of last season. So is Michael, that's a fascinating question. And then if they sign a veteran and bring him in, like, how does that look? So it's, I think I like Michael Carter. I think he can have a bounce back year. Injury kind of contributed to, a down second year. But it could be a crowded room. So that's all I'm saying is just, you got to watch out. And I'm not sure how it's going to play out.
The key is for running backs, you have to be able to block in pass protection, and that's how you're going to get on the field. So if one guy is showing more, promise as a blocker, that's the guy who's going to dress on game day. So if he's not willing to put in that work, because it's never really been his strong suit, then he's going to lose time to a guy like Izzy and a guy like Bam, because I feel like those guys probably have a stronger skill set in that department. But yeah, I mean, listen, we're talking about, 4 running backs right now. It's good to have that.
Yes.
The Jets also made some moves. They signed a bunch of offensive linemen really since the last time we spoke. Billy Turner, Yannick Kajus, who used to play for the Patriots. I love it because the offensive line has just been such a problem for the Jets dating back 5+ years. And it's always good to have depth in that area. And if it was like when we had, the guy from who went to the Ravens, I can't remember his name, who used to be at Washington. Morgan Moses being able to fill in when Becton went down. Like, that was huge. I mean, I'm not expecting these guys to be high-end starters, but, we have a 38-year-old tackle in Dwayne Brown. We have a guy who hasn't played more than 1 game in the last 2 years, and he's going on year 4. I mean, he looks great, but you got to stay on the field. And I know Connor and Joe were talking about the odds of him being on the team. I mean, I think he's gonna be on the team as provided he stays healthy, but like I'm not banking on him for 17. If he plays 17 games, that's amazing. But like if you get 10 out of him, that'd be amazing too. So I just think it's good that they are taking this approach head on. And I know that we were concerned about the tackle depth going into camp last year, and it came back to bite them really, really hard as the season went on. So I'm super excited because, you know, you're one injury away from having a guy like Billy Turner playing. So what do you think about how they've addressed the room, and obviously with Carter Warren as well?
I think I like the strategies. You just keep adding bodies and depth, because I think I haven't been shy about saying it and acknowledging that Robert Saleh said it. It was clear that they placed a large part of the blame on the tailspin at the end of 2022 on the injuries to the offensive line, and really the failure of that unit to be able to overcome that, and how much it struggled down the stretch. And that was clearly a problem. So I like the fact that there's adding bodies. And Billy Turner, I mean, he started a lot of games last year for Denver, if I'm not mistaken. So he's got starting experience. You got Max Mitchell now, who had starting experience. You got Carter Warren, who has plenty of starting experience in college, right? You bring Mekhi Becton back, and whatever you get out of him is like hitting the lottery. So I feel pretty good about their offensive line. I don't think it's going to wow anybody, but can it be middle, top 15 unit? Absolutely, yes, especially if they stay healthy. So that, to me, is really the biggest key to success for this season. Obviously, if they can block for the run, because the Jets have, if Breece Hall is truly healthy, they have a scary running back group, which really could be good. And you have a 39-year-old franchise quarterback that, listen, is no spring chicken, but can move within the pocket, but obviously can't move like he could, 9-10 years ago. So protecting him is going to be key. So if this unit can take a step up from what it was last year, maybe Laken Tomlinson plays a little bit better, plays kind of to that Pro Bowl level.
I think he will.
We're used to.
I expect that.
In San Francisco, maybe Tittman comes in and starts. That's another big thing. Like whether McGovern or Tittman starts, you have a solid backup in that place. You get AVT back, who was in all-pro form before he got hurt against Denver last year. So this, glass half empty, glass half full. If you look at it, the glass half full side, this could be a really good unit. You look glass half empty, it's like, man, there's injury question marks kind of across the board here. So I do like that they are self-aware enough to make the moves to reflect that, to say, listen, we need some depth, we need bodies. They get Yannick Kajust in here, they get Billy Turner. Am I missing? Didn't they just sign another guy as well before Kajust from New England? I thought they brought another guy. If not, I'm mistaken. No. But either way, at the very least, we're not like a one injury away from Connor McDermott starting again in a left tackle spot. So you feel better about that. Max Mitchell has some starting experience. Like everybody's got starting experience, so you feel good about how this could play out for them.
100%. I know we're doing a shorter show, so I definitely want to do a couple quick hitters. I thought the Mekhi Becton article that he put out to Glover was a silly idea for him. I really think that he's not in a position to be, kind of trashing the organization. I understand that maybe he doesn't agree with their sentiment if he should be playing on the right side. He's a left tackle, but like, you haven't played in 2 years. So no one's really going to take your side on this. I mean, I'm definitely pro player, them trying to get as much money as possible, but like, it's one thing to say this after you have a bounce back season and you ended up maybe winning the left tackle job, but to say before you've accomplished anything outside of playing one game in 2 years and having a decent rookie season, I mean, one that we thought maybe he was a franchise left tackle, but he did miss a couple games there. Like, I just don't understand what you're accomplishing, because you want the fans to be on your side, and it's really hard for them to take your stance on this when you're not playing. I mean, availability is one of the best things that a player can bring to the table. I mean, obviously you have to be productive if you're available, but he hasn't played in 2 years essentially. So it didn't really sit well with me. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but what were your thoughts about it? And just quickly.
I totally agree with you. I think he's played 2 quarters in 2 years. And honestly, like, just recognize the timing. Like, you have everybody behind you. Like, there's not a Jets fan out there that doesn't want this guy to be a franchise right tackle or left tackle. And like his weight loss and his comeback story right now, everybody's behind it. The guy looks fantastic. Like, we're all commending him on what a great job that he's done. So everybody's behind you. So it was just terrible timing for you to now
Vibes are good. We didn't need it.
And put that article out there. And the second thing that I'll say, and then we can go to the next topic is, you know what? Credit to Saleh. Like, don't even give it time. You want the left tackle spot? Go win it. Like, it's going to be open. Go win it. I mean, everyone going into 2021, we were sitting there going, George Fant, Mekhi Becton, and Morgan Moses, where, no one was expecting Morgan Moses to be the backup there, right? But based on play, that's how it worked out. So credit to Saleh. You want the left tackle spot? Go win it, dude. That's it. It's there for you.
It's Stop
talking. Don't talk about it. Go do it. And I like the fact that Saleh just said that.
Yeah, I think it was perfect way to approach it. And I feel like he's done a good job of putting those fires that have come his way since he became the head coach 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
One quick one, and then we'll talk about some 2009 Jets.
Yes.
I'm sure you heard because it was on Badlands, but I figured we could touch on it as well. The RotoPat GM rankings had Joe Douglas at 15th, which I think is a pretty fair ranking. I think it's actually more generous, believe it or not, considering what the win-loss record is since he came here. What do you agree with it? Do you think it's right? Because I think he's between 10 and 20. I would say probably 12 and 20, honestly. I think he's probably closer to 20, maybe like 17, 18.
Yep.
But I feel like anyone saying that it's too low and he should be higher, I feel like that's a little crazy considering they haven't had a winning record since he's been here. And there's been a lot of misses specifically with Zach and potentially with Mekhi. So what are your thoughts on him being ranked 15?
I think it's right where he should be. I think middle of the pack and mediocre is right where you would grade him in every aspect, like amongst the other GMs in the NFL. And really from a Jets perspective, like the wins and losses, they are what they are. He hasn't had a winning season yet. Yet last year was a good year. I think you have to give credit where it's due. Like, this was a mess to clean up when he got here, and he's done a commendable job doing that. But you look at the free agent classes, you look at the trades, you look at the draft classes, there's been good and bad. And so it's right where it should be, right in the middle. Like, there's been positives and negatives kind of across the board since he's come on. For every 2022 draft class, there was a 2020. And for every, Aaron Rodgers move, there's who was the center that he signed in 2019? There's a flop. You know what I mean? Like, that's just kind of
Ryan Khalil.
Yes, thank you. Like, it's just kind of how it's played out. And listen, you swing, and sometimes you hit a single, sometimes you strike out, sometimes you hit a grand slam. Like, that's how it goes. So I think 15, I'd put him in the neighborhood of 12 to 18, or right in there. So 15 is fair, and I think it's still the grade for him is still an incomplete. This season is going to dictate a lot of that, but you can't say one way or another that he's a great GM or a terrible GM. I think he's right where he is.
Yeah, no,
it's like a non-answer answer. I'm sorry, but
I think the way Joe Connor talked about it, how you hear people on one end of the spectrum saying he's really good, and then you have got people who are saying he's not so good. And usually the truth does lie in the middle, because if you can't agree on it, usually it's probably there's reasons to believe both sides. My biggest issue with him is when he got here, the offensive line was terrible, and you can make an argument it's not much better since he got here. So I think AVT is really the only piece that you feel 100% confident about that he brought in. I mean, you're hoping Joe Tippmann becomes that other piece that, is a long-term building block on the line, but Becton's a huge miss as of now. He could prove us wrong, and I hope that he does. I'm rooting for him. I mean, he's on the team. I want him to succeed. I have nothing against him. I just didn't like that article, but Lakin could be on the wrong side of 30 at this point. You want to hope that he's better than he was, but there's still plenty of questions that need to be answered. So the hope is that we're not having this conversation about him anymore, and he gets this extension, because that means the Jets did something of substance this year.
Yes.
But I think 15 is totally fair. I think that's probably where he belongs, but you can make arguments that it should be lower based on the win-loss record and some of the whiffs. But overall, I thought it was good. And I think the description was, pretty strong as well, talking about obviously the hits that he had, but also the huge misses, because that's what it is. It's been very high variance.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap it with some 2009 Jets talk. I think, honestly, 2009, 2010 are obviously my two favorite years, because I wasn't paying attention as closely in 2002. I wish I did, because Joe and Connor talked. I know. That's like when Pennington really burst onto the scene. I know he was drafted in 2000, but
it was 2000. I know. I want it real quick on that. Like,
go for
2002, right? Like, this unbelievably exciting, like, opening win against Buffalo. Chad Morton, 2 kick returns, like the Jets win in overtime. for the next 4 weeks, I can't even begin to describe next 3 weeks, I should say. I can't even begin to describe how utterly inept the offense was. Like they couldn't move the ball at all.
I mean, there's plenty of teams that were like that.
But this was next level bad. They couldn't move it. Vinny, for some reason, like just couldn't get it going. And it wasn't until Vinny gets hurt in a game against like Jacksonville, I think. They still only score 3 points, but Pennington comes in and actually moves the ball, and that's what changes everything. And then the rest of the year was so much fun. So anyway, sorry. 2009. We'll go ahead.
2009 was such a feel-good year for the Jets because 2008 was such a sour note. And I mean, you had the emergence of Darrelle Revis becoming the all-world Hall of Fame player that, he ended up becoming in that season. I know he was obviously emerging the prior 2 years, but that, having so many fun players on the team, the defense was dominant. Rex really just coming into his own with his bravado, and a lot of highs and lows because Sanchez had some really strong moments, but then he had moments that you would scratch your head, like that Buffalo game when he had like 5 interceptions. And I believe the punter threw a 6th interception, which that game they could have won 100 times. And it was just like, that was the epitome of same old Jets.
Yeah. Thomas Jones ran for like 300 yards in that game and they still lost because Sanchez threw 5 picks.
Yeah.
It was insane.
It really was. I love TJ, former guest of the show. But what was your favorite moment of 2009? Because there's so many good ones. And
there's a lot of good ones. I mean, it's, and people really like, it's tough to remember. Like that team was 4-6. Like they started out 3-0. And then go one in their next 7 to get the 4-6 before going on a little run and sneaking in the back door of the playoffs. But I'd say it's really hard. I think I got a feeling I know where you're going. So I'll go just that's week 2 New England game. Revis getting the pick on Brady. Them holding New England 9 points and getting the W, and that stadium rocking the way it was with the white out and the white towels. Like it kind of let you know that Rex was here, that this team was here, that they were for real. Like that was really, I'd say for 2009, that was my favorite part of the regular season. Definitely. The Revis pick on Vincent Jackson in the playoffs on San Diego was unbelievable. And then, like, I could go all day on this. And then, I mean, I honestly, I truly believe that they had it in that first half against Indy. I remember, like, I want to say Jim Nantz was on the call. They opened up saying that Peyton Manning pretty much, like, never gets sacked. David Harris bursts through the middle, sacks him on the first drive. The Jets are up 17-6. Like, and then that pass goes just over Drew Coleman's fingertips, and the rest is history. But, yeah, so there's a couple things in there. But I'd say it really beating New England week 2 kind of, like, let you know, like, okay, Rex is for real here.
Yeah, I was at that game. That's my favorite game I've ever been to. It was the loudest stadium's ever been. So yeah, that. But I also want to talk about week 17 that win and you're in.
That's where I thought you were going. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, think about that. There's so much on the line. You got the gift from Jim Caldwell when they rested all the starters in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
But like, that was the one time that I can remember as a Jets fan where I felt so confident that the Jets were going to win the game, and they actually backed it up and then some. I remember Carson Palmer started like 1 for 10 in the game, and then they pulled him, and it just was domination from start to finish.
Yeah.
So to me, like, that was just an awesome feeling. It was also the last game they played in the old stadium, which is kind of cool to think about. Unfortunately, we haven't had the same memories in the new stadium other than 2010 and I guess parts of 2015. But yeah, man, that was just such a fun year because that was, I was finishing high school. It was my senior year of high school, and it's like, finally, like, seeing good Jets football and like actually going on a playoff run. It was a sour note, obviously losing to Indianapolis, but like I didn't think in the bottom of my heart that they could beat Peyton Manning. But
yeah, you kind of felt like they were playing with house money a little bit in that playoffs, but once they beat, like, you had a good feeling they were going to beat Cincinnati because they beat them so handily the week before. But then once they beat,
wasn't worried about that.
San Diego was a good team that year, and they go into San Diego.
They won 10 in a row prior.
And then, and you're like, holy shit, like, this could be real. And they get up in the first half against Indy, and you're like, oh my God, like, we could actually do this thing. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the win gets taken out of your sails. But there's so many like cool moments. I mean, you remember they played Buffalo in Toronto on a Thursday.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird. Like, but Revis shut down T.O. Braylon Edwards took a bomb off his face mask. You remember that? Like, wide open deep, takes one off the face. Like, I remember them beating Carolina, and Revis had a pick off of Steve Smith's foot that he returned for a touchdown. Like, it was just that season was so good. you think about what they overcame too. Like Leon Washington was an absolute monster in the first part of that season, breaks his leg.
And then Sean Green just picks it up.
Fills in nicely. Chris Jenkins was a monster. He's done for the season, but Sione Puha comes in. Mm-hmm. He's a beast in there. Like this team was just, it was fun. It was good. That was a fun ride in 2009.
Honestly, dude, Sione Puha is one of those Jets that like the real ones know. He was so underrated, underappreciated. Him and Mike DeVito, they were awesome. Yeah. Like not guys that were like, you know, these big time household names, but they were just good players and contributed so many ways. And were just awesome guys to have on that team. And I think it just shows that they had so much depth on that team, which is why they went on that run. So
what's awesome, like what's really cool and it doesn't get said enough is like, we all talk about the run from Kevin White and Nick Mangold and how blessed we were at center for the better part of 17, 18 years, right? 98 to 2016.
Yeah.
But really the Jets up the middle, like when you think about that, like the Chris Jenkins, the Sione Puha, Jason Ferguson before that, Damon Harrison's, like they were good. They had good defensive run stuffing, big defensive tackles in there. And they were kind of blessed for a good portion of that time too.
Agreed. It's just, it's unfortunate that it's never been the quarterback that's been the position we've been blessed with. I think it's sort of been a lot different. If that
center and D tackle, interior D lineman. That's exactly where you want to be blessed.
So one last thing, we're just doing a little fun prediction. Obviously, the Quentin Williams contract stuff is still unsolved. He's not at OTAs. It sounded like Saleh feels good that he's going to be here. I know the Post said that they're not that far apart in terms of negotiations. So I'm going to ask you, what's the date that you think the contract is done, if it gets done? And what do you think the contract's for? And what do you think the guarantees are? And if you want me to go first, I'll say it.
No, I mean, I'm typically not good with this contract stuff, but I'll say the date is today's June 1st. Give it 2 weeks. I'll say June 15th. It's done right by then. I'll say the money is for just over 100. Guarantees, he probably gets just north of what Dexter Lawrence or whoever the next highest paid guy. So what they get, like 60 guaranteed?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. So he probably gets, another couple mil guaranteed over that. Like that's just, it's going to shake out. Like what I said in the opening about Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and this franchise and kind of everything going their way. Joe Douglas cannot allow this to be a distraction and to let that take this momentum away from him and the team and what they got going. They have to realize that Quentin Williams is the best player on this defense, was the best player on the team last year. Just get it done, put it to bed. Don't haggle over a couple million. Let's get him into training camp and be done with it. June 15th, I think 4 for 105, 62 guaranteed.
I think like July 15th, like right before they open camp, is going to get done. I think he's going to get 5 years, like 105. I think he gets like 70 guaranteed. I think he's going to get like a crazy guarantee that maybe like resets the market, but he'll be here. I'm not worried about that. And the Jets know they have to pay him. You can make the argument he's their best player right now, outside of like Rodgers or even Sauce or Garrett. Like one of their 4 best players, and he's a homegrown talent that they drafted. It's like you got to take care of your own. Like
they haven't been able to do that. Like you can't finally get one and let it go like this.
Yeah, and you have to show guys like Garrett and Sauce that you're willing to pay them. And this is the first step of doing that. But I don't think it's going to be an issue. And I'm so excited to have him here. I don't think he's going to miss a beat. I think he's going to get better because he's first hitting his prime right now.
Agreed.
So any closing thoughts as we recap a little, slow part of the offseason episode?
It's good to be back with you, man. It was good. I'm glad you had fun in Italy, but I'm glad you're back. And we'll start revving up as training camp approaches. I'm excited to hear when those training camp dates are. I want to get my family down there for at least a day or two, definitely. Scoping out maybe some games at least one game to go to. So I got my eyes set on that Black Friday Miami game, but I don't know, man. That's gotta be, that's really cool. It's also cool that Woody, wants that to be like kind of a staple game for the Jets. That
would be cool.
That would be really cool.
It's for someone like you who doesn't live that close to the stadium. You can always make plans like that.
Yeah.
I really want to go to the Kansas City game. My family wants to go to the Buffalo game, but I'd rather go on Sunday Night Football than Monday. But we'll see. I'm probably going to go to like 3 or 4 games this year because the expectations are high.
I know.
But I'm so excited for the season, man. a friendly reminder, everybody, please subscribe to this channel on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, or Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. You can search Turn on the Jets Live or TOJ Live, and you should be able to find it. You'll see our logo. And for YouTube, it's youtube.com/Turn on the Jets TV. And the other reminder is make sure you subscribe to the TOJ feed with Will. He's been doing a great job. I know he just had Bob Glover on. Great episode. I was able to tune in earlier today. And last but certainly not least, make sure you become a Badlands subscriber. I feel like this is the time to do it. This is the biggest year the Jets are, from an expectation standpoint, they've had in probably a decade. So I know Connor, Joe, Dan, everybody who's contributing is going to put together some great content. I'm sure the season preview guide is going to be amazing. I'm sure Russo and I will put some predictions in there, for the season. But yeah, there's so much going on. I think the new stuff that Joe's been doing with the morning coffee has been awesome. I love the war room breakdowns. I thought the Joe Tippmann film breakdown was awesome. I can't wait to see what else is in store. And there'll be more written content from Russo and I as we get closer to the season. We'll be doing some random episodes, as things happen. Like if a Quinton contract news breaks, we'll definitely do a quick reaction to that. I'm sure we'll be doing just random ones for nostalgia because it is a down period, but we want to give you some Jets fix because it's about to be a slow time because baseball is going to be the only thing going on once the NBA finals are over. So Appreciate everybody tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys soon.